And it was just so interesting how you just saw online a lot of people jump on Cardi's side just because of how Cardi has chosen to show up. If Cardi decided to just stop getting BBLs after every child and just let her body do what it do, she would be met with the same type of disrespect that Nadia is being met with, being in a bigger body. Hi, how are you? Thank you for clicking on my video and deciding to watch. Um, if you're new here and you dig my content, please like, share, or if you're feeling really spicy, subscribe.
Um, Before I get started, I do want to show things that I've made, or I just like to showcase stuff that I've made because I think it's dope. But I do. So this channel is just gonna be a separate channel. Oh wait, I need to take my AirPods out. Ugh, I always forget. Hold on. Okay. Oh wait, hold on. Let me let y'all see Sage. But yes, that's my Sagey Poo. This is just gonna be a separate channel just because I think I want to just keep my crafts, creations, Alchemy Creations is the name of the channel. Again, Alchemy Creations. If you're interested in crochet or you just want to see some dope shit that I've made, you can follow that channel. But this is just gonna be a separate channel because I felt like I didn't really want to intertwine in this. Oh my god, I have oh child. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. We're going to take a brief moment so I can get myself together because there's some stuff I see that I just want to rectify. Okay, I had a meeting in the ladies' room. I had a meeting in the ladies' room. I'll be back real soon. I had a meeting in the ladies' room. I'll be back real soon. Okay.
I get so distracted. Like, yeah, I get distracted. Alright, so yes, the other channel, I do creative shit on that channel. I sew, I knit, and I crochet. So I just like making stuff. So I have a separate channel for that. I could show you all the skirt that I made.
Yeah, it's a lavender with a little trace of purple with the tie and the waistline. But yeah, it's one of my favorite skirts.
I had made another video where I was talking about I'm resisting the urge to be thin. And there's something else that I want to talk about, but I'm gonna do a whole separate video on that. But I kind of wanted to elaborate on that topic just because I felt like in the video I might have been a little camera shy or something. But there was I was rewatching what I was talking about, and I was like, yeah, I could have elaborated on that a little bit more. So I guess this video is going to be about elaborating on that. So there is a point in the video where the general theme of the video is resisting the urge to be thin, and I talked about dealing with an eating disorder as a teenager, and I did talk about how church impacted my disordered eating, and how I view my body, view myself. And I spent a lot of time there. I was in church from age 12 to maybe age 13, 12, around that range. And then I didn't cut ties until I was 22. So almost 10 years in a sense, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of work that I'll have to do unfortunately I'll have to do to undo a lot of the psychological damage that caused. Okay, so this is editing row. And because I may or may not release that other video that I recorded on my intentional um or me being intentional on not becoming thin, I mentioned that it suffered some I'm still struggling to this day to try to conceptualize and put a word on what I experienced while in church. But what I will say is like to give more like examples of like what I mean, because I feel like I was very vague with my statement. Um, there was times where the church had food bank, and it's basically like where they have food where you can come and get whatever you want from the box, and it's free. So I remember being in school and I would, be going to get my stuff to take back to my dorm, and people would be policing what I got, you know what I mean? Like, oh, get some salad, or oh, don't get no bread, or you know what I mean? Like, or going to the door and shaking the pastor's hand and being told you putting on weight, you know what I mean? Before I'm even greeted or I'm even acknowledged, it's like, okay, let's just jump straight to it. You're getting fat. Or if I was appearing to be becoming too fast because my body was developing, I was told that as well. Um, there was always people within the congregation that was kind of upholding this idea of how I should look, whether it be like persuading me, oh, eat more salads, or you know what I mean? Don't eat this or eat that, eat more of this if you're trying to, lose weight or get smaller. So it was just I was just inundated for a long time, for as long as I can remember, with like ideas of how I should look. Not really like what um how I felt about any of it. It was just like, no, like how you look is wrong. And we want you to change it by doing X, Y, and Z. So just like being inundated with all of that all the time, it does subconsciously still keep me in the mind frame of like, okay, girl, you're getting too big, or you need to do this, or you need to restrict yourself in this way to achieve this ideal body. And that was perpetuated in the church that I went to or I was attending at the time. And when I got to a point where I could make my own decisions and I don't have to kind of go along with this because I am living with my mom, like I decided to leave because I could not take the psychological abuse, you know what I mean, that I was experiencing there. And I know everybody has their own different experiences with church. Well, I know that we're not all a monolith, but for my experience, that is something that I experienced. And I have to be transparent with that. And I wanted to be transparent with it because I didn't want to make a generalized statement with no context. All right, back to the video. And I also had another thought. I do also want to say that oftentimes it is women that perpetuate these ideas of thinness because, in my experience, it was not men judging my body, it was women in my life that were perpetuating this idea that I was not perfect the way that I was. Now back to the video. Cause, but outside of there is a lot of good that comes from going to church. I don't want to make it seem like um or suggest that someone should not ever go to church. I'm just speaking from my experience, but I will say that there is a great sense of community that comes from church. Um and that is the positive thing that I do miss about, you know what I mean, attending, but I don't miss, you know what I mean, being almost kind of picked apart in a sense of like, oh, you're getting too big, or oh, this is getting big, or oh, when I started, getting older, my you naturally, your body just starts to become developed, and a lot of people took that as a signifier of, oh, you've lost your innocence, or they accuse you of or accused me specifically accused me of being sexually active before I actually was. So there's just like a lot of stuff that I just have to like unlearn from that. And I felt the best course of action for me was to leave, you know what I mean? And I'm still dealing with, even today, like I'm still dealing with like the ramifications of like being in a space or in a community of people that kind of in my head, you know, I don't know any other way because no one else came back and apologized for anything, but might have took joy in like kind of not really knowing that you're like the things that you're suggesting may be unhealthy, and then why do I feel like I need to police this young woman's body or this young girl's body, like so yeah, that was just part of it. And like even like now, like the top I have on with my arms and stuff exposed, like it's just an act of like, okay, let me push against the idea that I need to hide any of this just because it doesn't look traditionally thin, which is like that's what's in, it's always been in, but I think now it's more popular to be, you know what I mean, thin. Or you know, during the time where I was like in college, you know, slim thick was like the vibe, and you know, I had that shape. And even when I had that shape, I always felt like I was just so big. Oh, you're so big, girl. And it's just even like YouTube is so interesting because shit will pop on my algorithm that I wouldn't even like think about, you know, watching for real. But I did, this video came on my algorithm of this young Asian woman, and she was already really small, and she was like she wanted to lose some weight. I don't know how much she was trying to lose, but she went about it basically by like fasting or starvation. I mean, I guess we can put, you know, a pretty not pretty, but I think people like to use fasting because it just sounds better, but I feel like the reality is it is restricting and starving yourself of food to obtain whatever spiritual enlightenment, whatever goal you're trying to obtain, whether it be getting closer to something, whether it be trying to lose weight. You're denying yourself. And even in church, fasting was like a big part of that experience as well. Every week, you know, they still do, which I'm not against fasting, but I myself don't participate in fasting. Well, not intentionally. Like right now, it's like I got up and I didn't eat anything, and it's just because I go to the gym really late, and when I come back, I eat a little something to kind of get, you know, the muscle gain that I'm trying to get from lifting and stuff. So I think my body's just kind of like, girl, like I'm hungry, but like I'm not like starving, but I'm not depriving myself, you know what I mean? Like if I wanted to stop this video and like heat up a bowl of food, I could do that. But I personally don't participate in that anymore, just because it triggers a lot of things that I just don't really want to, like, I don't want that to take up my mind space, and it's like doing that triggers, and maybe that's something that I need to like unpack actually. But modern day, I don't participate in that. But like the girl, she was fasting. I think all she did was like drink like some type of like, I want to say she might have did like a flavored water or something, and like she was taking supplements, I think, to keep her energy up. But I think she went like 3 days and she didn't eat. And mind you, this girl is like already traditionally like a small girl, but to me, it kind of opened my eyes up to the fact of like, as women and as a society, like we're all on this track to kind of constantly reach for like things other than who we are, you know what I mean, and trying to achieve a standard to be accepted. And like even in my video, the last video, I talked about why I've decided to, you know, get a gym membership and participate in diet and culture again. It's just mainly, it's vanity. Like, yes, the health benefits are amazing. You know what I mean? I feel great after completing a workout. I always feel super accomplished. And I think that it creates like really good structure in your life. But like resisting the urge to be thin, it's like for instance, like I've ate cookies this week multiple times. I ate a donut last night. So like I'm not restricting myself from eating anything that I want to eat, but I would be lying if I didn't, be honest and be like, yeah, after I ate that donut, I felt super guilty. Um and I felt like, okay, girl, you need to, when you go to the gym, you need to work really hard to try to burn, you know what I mean? Undo the donut, as if eating a donut is going to cause me to gain 5 pounds. But it's just a psychological game that I feel like in like a, almost like we're on a treadmill, like I said, of like constantly trying to achieve. Like, I feel like, I think that's part of why I kind of have got offline, because I used to be on social media a lot, but like over the last, I want to say 3 to almost 4 years, I kind of have been slowly pulling away from that, just because you become enamored with like seeing different women and feeling like subconsciously you need to try to meet a certain standard to be able to exist in a peaceful way. But it's like it's really not peaceful, because you're constantly inundated with like, okay, what do I need to fix now? What do I need to work on now? um and I just think about people who are naturally, you know what I mean, thin people, or people who meet the beauty standard. I wonder, like, if there is a sense of contentment. You know what I mean? Like, who feels truly content with themselves? For me, I don't want to like stereotype or generalize anything, but I will say that like there is a complete difference in like how women have to show up, and all of the work that we have to, and all the labor, and all of the just manipulation we have to do to ourselves just to be perceived beautiful. um and even like I talked about the whole Cardi B situation, and Nadia Simone. She's the founder of Black Tina Media. Fat phobia in Latino and Caribbean communities isn't just about little jokes. It has, okay, so her name is Nadia Simone. And Cardi B, I think a lot of people, I think it just kind of goes to show like the psychological impact of like fat phobia on society, because it was so interesting to me how like quick people were to be like, oh, Cardi B was joking, you know what I mean? And yes, she was joking, but like just because you say something and you think it's funny doesn't mean that like it's funny for everyone, especially if the joke comes at someone else's expense, you know? And for me, I just felt like, here we are, two different women, completely different body types, both probably have similar experiences, just but maybe different in regards to like how they are treated. Yes, Cardi B is a traditionally exotic, beautiful woman, but Cardi B has done a lot of manipulation to her face, her nose, for instance. Um, she looks very different. She's done a lot of tweaking. So to me, I think that's where like another person who has done the work meets a person that has not done the work is basically, I think, the best way to like sum up that interaction. And it was just so interesting how you just saw online a lot of people jump on Cardi's side just because of how Cardi has chosen to show up. If Cardi decided to just stop getting BBLs after every child and just let her body do what it do, she would be met with the same type of disrespect that Nadia is being met with, being in a bigger body. I think it is very cowardice to to not take a deeper look and be like, oh, and it's ignorant to be like, no, I'm not going to read a book. I'm not going to educate myself on fat phobia just because you have a problem with it. It's just interesting. I think these conversations really say a lot. As small as people tried to make that joke seem, to me, it just said a lot. I was like, wow, like, no one is reading the room for real. Like, and we are still very much living in a society that despises or has a bias towards people that are not thin. And then I talked about like, well, I want to talk about like, as far as elaborating on being in a bigger body and like what that means and interacting. And it's like, you know, I think for me, I think I feel like I've pretty much worn what I want to wear and not really thought about it like that. I mean, you think about what you have on, but like in a sense of like being self-conscious. And I feel like being bigger, it definitely comes with like this level of like, okay, I can't wear this skirt because I have cellulite, or I don't want to show my arms because my arms are not toned and like lean and like they don't look like Michelle Obama. Because y'all remember when like everybody was raving about Michelle Obama's arms, but they don't look great like Michelle Obama's arms. Like my arms do, they're not thin. So like there is this self-conscious that comes with like going out in the world and like people looking at you like, girl, you don't need to be wearing that, or girl, you don't have the body to be wearing that. But there's a lot of like internal work that I have to do to be like, no, you're gonna wear it, you're gonna be okay. It's okay if people cannot accept you for how you look. And we live in a world that rejects people that are outside of the box. And I have days that I go out and I'm like, I don't care, I have my shorts on. And then there are days that I go out and I'm like so self-conscious, even though I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do to quote unquote meet a standard. To achieve what exactly? You know what I mean? Yes, I could leverage it for different things, but it's like ultimately, in reality, this doesn't really matter. It's the character of me. It's having depth. You know what I mean? It's being able to talk about the politics of anti-fatness. I talked about this in my last video, and I think I'm going to read a couple more passages. I keep holding this like this. I need to hold it like this. I think I'm going to read a couple of more passages of this book in this video when I close out. But yeah, I just wanted to elaborate on that. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that came to mind? Let's find something to read from Deshawn's book. Again, The Belly of the Beast, The Politics of Anti-Fatness as Anti-Blackness by Deshawn L. Harrison. Hold on. Oh, there was something else I wanted to talk about in regards to like fat phobia. I think there is not enough conversations being had about, I don't think there's enough conversations being had about like the food deserts that most people live in, and like the lack of like access to healthy food. Like a lot of the food here is processed. Even our vegetables. unfortunately, are processed in some shape or form. But there's not enough focus on creating community gardens, you know what I mean? Creating areas where people can have access to fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, and they're not having to pay an arm and a leg to have access to vegetables and fruit. You know what I mean? Have access to healthy food. And this country makes it so inaccessible for people to have access to that. But then at the same time, we ridicule and we judge and we point fingers at people who have bigger bodies, but then at the same time, we're not looking at the circumstances that create these things. You know what I mean? And Deshaun talks about that in his book. In fact, for a race to be constructed, the slave had to exist, and had to exist as the antithesis of health. Antithesis. And had to exist. Okay, let me start over. In fact, for a race to be constructed, the slave had to exist, and had to exist as the antithesis of health, so that European physicians, anthropologists, and other eugenicists could determine what set the slave apart from, as J.F. Blumenbach called them, the Caucasian, that being the degeneration or the corruption of the slave's body from the Caucasian. For all intents and purposes, Blumenbach created race and did so as to differentiate the human from the slave. These scientists based the idea of health on what Africans could and could not withstand, and created health issues based on what Africans would not withstand. Take, for example, Samuel A. Cartwright. In 1851, Cartwright named two illnesses that were exclusively found in Africans. The first of the two was what he called drapetomia. Hold on. Let's do a check on that word.
Drapetomania.
Okay. Drapetomania. Okay. All right. Where was I? Okay, hold on. I have to figure out a way to hold this because my hand is getting. Okay. The first of the two, what he called drapetomania, which was a mental illness that caused the slave to run away. The second one was called dysauthnasia. Child, hold on. We got to do another word check because I don't want to mispronounce it. Let's see. These words are important, so we're going to take our time and look them up.
Dysesthesia or dysesthesia. Dysesthesia or dysesthesia.
Dysesthesia. Okay. Dysesthesia. Where was I? Oh my gosh. Which was a sort of weakness or lack of work ethic that Africans would develop if they were not enslaved or otherwise in the possession of white enslavers. His suggested treatment for both illnesses was to wash their open wounds, drape their bodies in oil, beat them with a leather strap, and force them to work in the field, specifically when the sun was beaming. These illnesses were specifically about characterizing the black who dared to believe they were deserving of health, whereby they were deserving of safety and wellness. Cartwright deemed them psychologically abnormal and inept, and this would essentially birth what we now understand to be scientific racism. medical apartheid, as named by Harriet Washington, is foundational to the creation of race, which is the creation of the black, which is the creation of the slave. For as long as there is black, there is a subject to be examined on. For as long as there is a subject to be experimented on, For as long as there is black, there is a subject to be experimented on. For as long as there is a subject to be experimented on, health will always already be inaccessible to the slave. As this is the case, health is a framework in which no black person can ever fit. This is especially true for fat black people. The belly or fatness is yet another reason for why the beast or the black can and will never have access to health. In Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia, Sabrina Strings masterfully details how fatness on the black subject's body set the precedent for how fatness would engage in the United States and the world as a whole. Fatness was once seen as something to aspire to, something that was attractive. The reason for this, however, was because at the time, fatness signified socio-political and economic power. What Strings makes clear in Fearing the Black Body is that it was fatness alignment with whiteness that really made it attractive to Europeans. When Europeans saw Africans for the first time and saw that their bodies looked like them, but their skin did not, it was then that anti-fatness was established as a coherent ideology. Because fatness had become blackened and blackened, it could only... My alarm stopped the video. It could only ever be impure and beastly, as the slave represented capital and forced labor. Fatness could no longer be about status and power, so it became about greed and ungodliness. Strings argues that the fear of fatness and the preference for thinness are political and historically not about health, but rather they are ways to legitimize race, sex, and class hierarchies. So, yeah, I think that pretty much sums up, that. Again, get the book, please read it. We reject anti-intellectualism here, so to be like, just because I don't want to know about it, because I don't want to force myself outside of my little box, it doesn't work. It don't work for me. And I applaud the people that held her accountable. Cardi, you got a lot of work to do, girl. Like, a lot of unlearning to do. We all do, honestly. I have a lot of unlearning to do. I'm about to get off of here, though, and eat because I am starving. And I'm rejecting thinness, so I'm going to go eat something. Because we're not fasting over here, child. We about to eat something. And then I'm going to come back and do another video talking about something else. And then I'm going to go about my day because I start school next week. So I'm just trying to mentally prepare myself for that. But I'm going to see y'all in the next one. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, or share my video if you vibe with what I talked about. And yeah, we'll see y'all in the next one. Bye. I'm trying to think of like some cute little like endings or whatever, or sayings, but I haven't thought of anything. I mean, let me share with y'all like what I thought of, like what would be a cute intro. Okay, so here it is. Welcome to Sweet Feminism, because feminism is for everyone. So take a slice, eat it now, or save it for later. I don't know. I wrote that down like while I was drifting off to sleep or some shit. I don't know. We'll see. But either way, I'm gonna see y'all in the next video. Bye. I want you to go eat a sandwich. As soon as you get done watching this video, I want you to go eat a sandwich and say fuck the patriarchy. Okay. Bye.